So it's officially been a little over 3 weeks since Counter-Strike's last major and just update in general. That being the Spring Forward blog featuring the long-awaited refresh to the armory, the brand new Fever case with the highly anticipated chroma finishes on the Danger Zone knives. After what feels like the last decade, we finally got brand new weekly drops, and of course minor additions and changes to Inferno and Train. Now this update from the outside looking in was great. We got more skins and needed map changes, but you see that's all the update had to offer. Nearing now a month since its release, and players are beginning to share their thoughts after the honeymoon phase has passed, and while the results are in, and they're interesting but also understandable to say the least. Long story short, on the skin side of things, those were great. But like we just stated, that's all this update had to offer players after 5 months since the last major update. After 5 months, let alone really 2 years since the game's original release, or reveal now with the limited test, aside from Train, Baggage, and Shoots, we have yet to see any new maps, no brand new modes or just returning modes from CSGO aside from Arms Race. What we've had so far with Counter-Strike 2 is just long-stalled features from the devs such as Season 2 of Premiere, which was nearly 2 years too late for Season 2. Now today's video is another episode in our Aftermath series where we break down the most recent major update for CS2. We discuss the good, the bad, and where the community's headspace is at heading into the summer of 2025. And with that being said, we're also going to be touching on what's going to be coming to Counter-Strike 2 in terms of content soon. But before we do so, I want to give a huge thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring today's video. Skin Club is a highly popular case opening platform with a massive collection of cases for you to unbox, giving a fair chance for all players. For those who are 18 years or older, elevate your gaming experience by collecting and upgrading amazing skins through a provably fair system, ensuring a fair chance whether you're unboxing by yourself, competing against other players, or battling bots. Consider the stakes and transform your unwanted baggage into something shiny. Simply select the skin, explore the upgrade options, and move the slider to your preference. Every month, Skin Club features a brand new event packed with cases, exciting giveaways, and points for participating on the platform, which can be spent on the marketplace. There are multiple different payment methods such as crypto, card, or skins. And withdrawing your winnings takes seconds. Head to your profile, select the skin you want, and you'll have it in your inventory. Don't miss out on the 7% deposit bonus. Check out the link in the description below.
Let's roll.
Now I want to quickly but also efficiently break down and go over the Spring Forward update into further detail before we decide a final stance and give this update a final rating where we first break down the blog. Now first things first is skins and collections. These new skins are great and offer dozens of different themes, not to mention colors and loadouts to different players. And I also will throw in here, CS2 just seems to improve on skins after every new batch that gets added. Now yes, I know that CSGO wasn't a different engine than what we have with CS2 being on Source 2 versus Source 1, but even comparing skins that we had with CS2's first original launch to right now, there's a pretty noticeable difference, and it makes me wonder what these are going to look like in 5 years time. Really for me, what it comes down to is these couldn't look better, one on the CS2 weapon models, but they're also good looking skins for a fairly, well, cheap price. And well, but the other side of things to this is they're going to grow even more cheap due to the amount of farms relating to the armory, but more about that later. The Train 2025 collection was one to be thought to not come until after the major, or would have been a similar situation to the Anubis package back in 2023, where there wasn't any big skin or content drops, so the devs just released the Anubis package on its own, and as of today, it's still in the shop. So I guess I'm glad that we got it this way, but I also will say these skins look great too. Now, as it stands for the limited type item, I gotta say it's weird to have a non-meta weapon be the most desired item. At least that's how Valve wants this to be viewed. Unlike the Desert Eagle heat treated, I personally don't think this will be unboxed near as much just due to not being on a meta weapon, but also just not being a really interesting looking skin. Speaking of the Fever case, it's actually a-okay, but where it really shines is the knives. After nearly 7 years of a wait, Valve finally released Danger Zone knives to have chroma finishes, which one look amazing, but on the other hand of things, it wouldn't be much of a major CS2 update without critical errors. For the first time in CS history, at least to my knowledge, the devs seem to have replaced the gold icon, which kind of just looks like a knockoff case simulator, but that's just my opinion. But they also messed up the odds of getting a higher tier knife, where it's to the point specifically with gems, ruby, sapphire, black, pearl. There's almost as many gems on the Danger Zone knives as there are for some of the classics. And of course, let's now discuss collections. According to the blog post, Valve removed Bank, Italy, and the late collections from the weekly drop, which not only makes sense since these maps aren't even a part of CS2 aside from Italy. These old collections were extremely cheap, and like most situations that are similar to this, one, no one saw it coming, but because of that, players have kind of gone insane paying stupid prices for old crap oversupplied skins. But just because we got new drops doesn't mean there won't be any new problems. Late case farming and bot farms for the armory, this has already seen an issue where some players have created bot farms not just for weekly drops, also the armory pass gaming more profit than ever. Now from the outside looking in, if you're looking at the market, looking at the quantity, looking at price prices. Not to mention the player base with these bots, this actually doesn't look like too bad of a thing. But this does leave out on a lot of players losing profit where they otherwise would have made a crap ton more if Valve just came in, banned these said farms in the first place, and I think you guys could probably get the rest. And if you guys don't believe me, we have a whole dedicated video to bot farms inside CS2 where we break down some of the methods and sites used to start farming, where you can gain hundreds of dollars with a very low dollar amount, not a lot of effort, and probably won't be detected inside CS2 at least anytime soon. Now this, what it comes down to is just in my opinion here, I think Valve sees this as, well, they don't really care too much about it because they are making more money this way, but also it hyper inflates the player count to push CS2 to the #1 charts on Steam for the most played games, which pushes a lot of people to download it, open cases, and Valve gets that money. Now after this update, it has been said through data mines, but also just dozens of different bandwaves, that Valve is going after bot farms. I just don't think the way that most people want them to. Same thing goes with cheaters. Now if it was because of bot farms or not, after this update, the record for the all-time high player count was broken from CS2's limited test, which at one point was never really thought to be broken because it was never thought to be possible, but it seems like skins were the update to do it. Now moving forward in this blog post is the map updates and miscellaneous changes. The rest of this recap should be short and sweet, as this is pretty short-lived in this blog. The maps listed for changes and additions are Train and Inferno. They both featured changes to help FPS, simplifying backdrops of areas where players would really blend in, smoothed out pixel gaps, and surfaces. Not to mention Valve word for word adjusted Banana to better resemble the size from CSGO. Banana as of now feels much more similar to CSGO as Valve stated, but it also just feels more familiar and easier to take and hold. Gunfights on Banana now feel much more fair, and you're more easily punished, I'd like to say, for trying to take Banana as a T if you're doing a rush B no stop with Glocks against a full buy for CTs. And well, for that update, that's pretty much a wrap. Now giving this update a score out of 10 from what we just saw and discussed, and no outside thoughts coming in, I would say this update is a solid 6 to maybe 6.5, maybe even 7. But if we consider the fact that this update was thought to be much more based off of leaks, rumors, data mines, and real hard evidence that something much bigger was coming and was being worked on by the devs, this update is more like a 3 instead of a 6 to 6.5, maybe even 7. Also taking into account that this was the first update for CS2 in over 5 months, at least that was major, featuring decent amounts of content. Now what we can take away from this update is Valve need to work on more consistent updates, not waiting to release bug fixes and tweaks in the same major blog. These need to be more in between and more consistent, not to mention on time. They also need to work on much better communication with us, the players, which if we just date this back to last year, they were doing good for quite some time when they were releasing pretty much a major update a month and small to medium ones in between. And I also will say this is that the devs need to start pushing out more consistent and just community content in general. The devs heavily rely on the player base for maps, modes, and skins. Aside from cosmetics, it's time to start implementing some of this inside CS2, because this long stretch with no content, players are starting to feel hopeless for something fun and innovative, like what we used to have with operations and what those brought back to the table back in CSGO. Now we are going to end today's video on a high note, and that's the fact that we know for a fact that Valve is and has been working on a new minigame slash mode for CS2, as it was seen in the game files and data mines just months ago. Not to mention we've also seen in the game files and Valve's promotional material for CS2 that lake, canals, and a handful of other maps and features already, and it's just a factor of Valve making them public. But we are going to talk about this more in next week's video, where we are going to break down the next addition and change to CS2's map pool, that being for competitive and the professional scene. And kind of for a sneak peek, for those who don't know, Train for CS2 went through developmental hell. I believe a lot of the maps we've seen in promotional material and game files for CS2, I think are very likely in that same boat where Valve is giving them a brand new touch. Now let me know what you guys think. Did you guys enjoy the skins update? Valve, please add the long time league co-op missions to the armory and whatever else you think that would spice up gameplay. If you're currently playing a 20k match in Premiere, a lot of the people, if not everybody, is sweating harder than a major, and it's just getting a little tiresome. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Fallout.